Alright, so in this video I will be exploring PIVXCentral.org. I have not interacted with this website before, so this is my first time going through it. My reactions to it will be genuinely candid, and I'll be talking about the various elements that I'm exploring and seeing, and trying to discuss any kind of usability or user experience issues that I see it as possibly, coming from the existing design. What I will have kind of going on in the background here, as I always do with any of these videos, is a reference document to Nielsen-Norman Group's 10 usability heuristics for user interface design. I won't go through them right now, but I definitely recommend anybody who's dealing with user interface design to kind of check these out, keep them in the back of their mind as they're doing any kind of designs, as they act as a heuristic or kind of a best design practice or guidelines, if you will, to go by while designing any kind of user interface. So from every so often I might go back and forth between tabs and kind of reference one of these things in here. I might also reference other usability heuristics or cognitive engineering principles as I go through things. So I also have the website opened up on a mobile device, an iPhone 10 here, so I can kind of look at how the experience works on both the desktop version as well as a mobile version. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of go through the elements on the page that I kind of see, what I believe are my kind of actionable items, the call to action buttons and things like that on both the desktop and the mobile version here. So looking at the desktop version, I can see that there are several charts here. Looks like one that is giving the kind of price and volume of PIV. It looks like it goes over a certain duration of time, and you can change from 1 day to 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, all okay. We also have information about master nodes. And it appears that this too is based off of some duration of time, which can be changed up here. Okay, so you can have independent controls over the master node graph as well as the price chart here. Interesting, okay. We also have information about the next super block, which apparently is coming on December 5th, 2018. In here, it doesn't look like there's much in terms of clickable elements. And down here is some sort of counter that goes along with that. On the left-hand side is our primary navigation. Looks like we have this actually acts as a control mechanism to open and close the menu. While it's closed, we see icons that represent the elements that would be here: the dashboard, the governance, and the links. Dashboard, governance, okay, and links, which is another menu here that kind of opens and closes. Interesting, all right. In the top right-hand corner, we have the ability to sign up, to log in, to change time zones, and then also change currencies. I'm assuming that once you change this would affect all of that. So let's kind of go through and see what this looks like here on the mobile version. It appears like we are dealing with some sort of responsive design, which would allow for elements on the page to adjust based on the width of the page itself. I'm just going to kind of double check here what that looks like as I move. There we go, there's a breaking point right there. Another breakpoint, which closes the menu, okay? This is not how I had it. Boop, there we go, okay. All right, so everything's stacked here, and what are the interactions looking like here? 1 week, switches up, okay. Do we have the ability to move this across? All right, so one thing that we saw with the web version is the ability to move this line here. You can drag it. So it looks like as you come into the box with the cursor, I'm not clicking at all. So the cursor comes in, that puts the line indicator, which you can then drag once you enter this chart here. And so once you're in here, I imagine it's a bit harder to replicate with the mobile version. I don't know how I got that line to begin with. I think I tapped within here and go back and watch the video. Let me refresh the screen. All right, so if I tap, there we go. All right, so in the mobile version, you can't necessarily drag. You have to kind of tap where you see fit. And I'm not sure if we're dealing with specific increments in which it moves. Like, can I get one right next to that, or does it move in particular increments? And I'm assuming that this moves in those increments as well. All right. Master nodes. Same deal. Is on 1 year. Day. Next super block and the countdown. Okay. So one thing I'll point out here is I think this is more of a cognitive engineering principle. When you deal with designing workstation-based interfaces or consoles or things like that. My background is in what's called human factors. It's basically the study of how people perceive and interact with information, in technology that they're interacting with. It was a field born out of the aviation industry. There's a reason why I'm talking about this, where they were studying how pilots of planes interacted with the various gauges and things that were existing in a cockpit. Making sure that the right information is presented to a pilot at the right point in time, that they're able to find information where they would expect to find it, where it should be logically placed, especially having information that is needed with other information being placed together to be easy to read one gauge and then another one, so the pilot can make some sort of inference from those two bits of information. The reason I bring this up is that what I'm seeing here is the grouping of two elements that kind of deal with the same thing. What's the next super block? Okay, you got a date in which it's going to happen, and then you also have a countdown timer. And so you have these two elements side by side. So that's the grouping of information that should be placed together so that a user or an operator of the system can see them quickly together and make some sort of inference from it. So here, you're dealing with a static date, and here you're dealing with a countdown to that specific date, so that a user can say, okay, that's happening December 15th, and that's going to be in 16 days, 8 hours, and 56 minutes. So that's good grouping of information here. I'm curious, this is just, me thinking out loud, why these particular visual elements, these three things, the price indicator, the master nodes, and the super block, are the main things that are presented on the screen. Are there other bits of information that would also be relevant or needed here for a person coming to this website to gather the information that they need to find out? Again, I have not actually delved into this website before, and though this sounds incredibly ignorant, I'm not sure of what its purpose is. What is this? Why does it exist? What is the point of this website? And obviously it's a place for people to come to gather information about PIV. And so I'm just kind of curious as to, is this the main information that you would want a user to come to when they first arrive to this site? Obviously you've got a great navigation here. I applaud that. with a lot of resource links here, which is great. You know, if the reason for people to come here is to find ways to link to other things, having this links navigation open on the left-hand side immediately, that's great, having that there for a user to quickly get to these various resources. On the mobile version here, as you can see, that navigation or menu is not visible. It's going to be collapsed underneath this hamburger icon here, which I'm going to explore now. But that is easy to open up, and you can see those resources there. How do you close it? Okay, there we go. All right, so we looked at the changing of these time zones and denominations on the desktop version. Let me check it out on the mobile. Okay, here it actually doesn't have a drop down. It opens up this kind of more native mechanism to the iPhone that you can scroll through. So one thing that I'll say is that from kind of a usability or user experience standpoint, this mobile version of how you go about choosing things, I think, is actually a better mechanism than what we see here on the desktop version. And the reason for that is when you click here, you don't see that many options at one time. You just see these 3 options. To me, the way that this information is displayed, it's thick text stacked in 3 lines. It's not the most efficient way to show a listing of things. So you got to scroll through quite a bit to find what your target would be, and it could be buried way the hell down here. The information that is provided is going to be okay. You got the UTC minus, U.S. and Canada, Arizona. You know, time zones can be presented in different ways. You know, you can have like I live in Baltimore, Maryland. That's Eastern Standard Time. So you could have that, you know, you can have Mountain Time, Central Time, things like that for the United States, or Pacific Time if you're in California. But here everything is based off of UTC. Now I would imagine, since you're dealing with a very international based kind of platform, you know, PIVX being a cryptocurrency that is international, that a more standardized way of presenting time zones, the UTC, would probably be a better way to do it. Having cities, I think, you know, listed with certain, because some people, you know, knowing what their UTC, that might not be a common thing. I know in the United States we don't really speak that way. That doesn't mean that other people in other countries don't use that as a main way of talking about time zones. I don't have any data on that. It'd be interesting to look it up. But having cities with any kind of time zone will help those people who aren't so great with calculations about, okay, you know, what am I in, be able to identify their city or a city that is near them, so they can be like, oh yeah, I typically associate with that particular city. So having that information is good. But going back to what I was saying in terms of kind of the visual layout of that information, the ability to quickly scan through things with the mobile version here makes it a lot easier to see your target and kind of get to it than you can on the desktop version here. And that's going to be the same, you know, for this currency thing. However, you're only dealing with just a few options here, so it's not as big of a deal because you're not, you know, scrolling forever trying to find your thing. It's just a few things. But looking at that, you know, again, it's a, you can see all of them at least, you know, with the mobile version. So one kind of suggestion here is, you know, if you wanted to kind of make little tweaks to this so that a user could perhaps see more at one time, so that it's not like a lot of scrolling, then maybe that could be one possible way to improve, you know, the usability or user experience of this. All right, let's see. What do we want to get into next? Let me go back to United States USD. Done. All right, so we can go through the process of signing up. I'm assuming if you sign up for this, what you're doing is maybe signing up for some kind of notification, like you'd receive emails about things that have happened, things that have changed. I'm gonna take a step back. Before we go into that sign up, I wanna go back to this information here. As somebody who does invest in PIV and has an interest in seeing where it goes, one thing that I am curious about is, more about the technicals of things. Like, I know what a master node is, and it's something that has, I think you have to have 10,000 PIV in order to have a master node. Super blocks and things like that, that's getting a little bit past like my knowledge of, it's getting more technical. And one thing that has always concerned me with the cryptocurrency space and the blockchain space, and this should be a concern of everybody's, is that you deal with this kind of this knowledge gap that's going to exist from the the diehard devs, people who are building this space, the very early adopters who kind of like find it fun and interesting to take on the challenge of learning about this space. And then there's just a gap that's going to exist between those and then the general public, the next wave of adopters. The next wave of adopters might not be as interested in learning about the technicals, and they're not going to know that much about the technical aspect of things. And so when they come across information that doesn't make sense to them and seems kind of a little bit overwhelming, that can be a deterrent. That can cause them to be like, whoa, what is this? This doesn't make any sense to me. Cryptocurrency, that's crazy. That's too complex. It's over my head. So a suggestion that I would have for the makers of this site is perhaps put in some sort of overview of what these things mean. Like learn about masternodes or learn about what super blocks are. Maybe there has to be some kind of prerequisite information about understanding the mechanics of blockchain to begin with in here. But providing that information would be great to help new users who come to this site better understand what it's all about, not just what PIV is all about, but what cryptocurrency and blockchain is all about, helping to establish their mental model so they can kind of see, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, I can see why that makes things better in terms of the movement of money and currency, and how this is going to affect the internet and the web and finance and political and social things going forward. You provide people with good mental models of how this technology works. They can then take it logically in their own minds to the next step and kind of see like where it's going, and they can get on board with everybody else and seeing, okay, here's the future. I can see where this is leading to. We're not there yet, but I can see where it's going. So helping people build that foundational mental model is important, so that you can get that kind of next wave of adopters and kind of using the infrastructure and buying into it. So that would be another suggestion I have, is maybe having some kind of overview as to what the hell these things are. All right, so let's go into the sign up aspect here. I will start on the mobile version this time. All right, so it's asking for an email address, a password, repeat password, and then coming up with a username, and you can also upload an avatar. All right, so I have to use 2 email addresses, I'm assuming. One would be like a personal and then also like my professional email address. I will use my personal email here because it's already filled in the autofill here, so I'll just boop, throw that in there. Safari, of course, is trying to give me some crazy password that, like, unless I'm using Safari, I wouldn't remember this shit. So let me choose my own password. I'm going to make one up, and I will obviously censor that out with the video footage. So let me get that in here. All right, information is filled out. I'm going to go ahead and create the account. So I click create account and it is grayed out and now nothing's happening. Why? All right, well, before I dick with this more here, I'm going to try it on the desktop version to see how it looks there. Here I'm using a different email address. All right, so I liked how it didn't become an active create account button until I filled out all that information. I'm gonna go ahead and click create account. And same situation here. I'm just sitting here with this gray screen. Gray screen meaning the grayed out create button. Also, this PIVX logo up here, it looks as if, I don't know, as a placeholder. I mean, obviously you're using a PIVX logo, but it's not like a colorful one. It almost looks like it's some sort of placeholder logo, but maybe that's, you know, the point of it. All right, so I can click upload logo, upload avatar. That works, but no create account. I'm wondering if the reason that it's not going any further is that I haven't uploaded an avatar. However, there is no required asterisk next to this particular field here, so I would assume that you don't need an avatar. There might be issues with the format of the username. The one that I've got here has a period in it. I'm not sure if that would prevent it from happening. I know it said you had to have 5 characters, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to try uploading an avatar here and see if that has any kind of bearing. Wait, look at that. Username already exists. Now why did it just start doing that now? Okay, username already exists here too. All right, so I have either gone through this process and signed up both these usernames already in the past and I don't remember it, or someone else has, which I find highly unlikely, seeing that there's, how would both 2 usernames that I use frequently as on my own that are personal to me be in the system. 3, it's continually trying to create an account or something, like it's resending this information. It's already been received, on the system's end, I'm talking like, a minute ago, and now it's doing it again and saying, oh, wait, this has already been registered, username already exists. So I'm not sure what's really causing this problem here. I'm going to adjust this username just a little bit here and see if anything happens with that. So I can click around, I'm not getting that again, but also this create account hasn't changed. An account with this email already exists. Okay, so I think that this is my opinion. I think that my information has already been sent to the back end. It's received it. However, there hasn't been any kind of feedback screen presented to me once I hit create account saying success. You have sent the information, we have received it, you have created an account. So perhaps what's happening is on the back end, I have created an account. However, me as a user, I am not getting that feedback. So that ties into one of my favorite usability heuristics here, visibility of system status. The system should always keep users informed about what's going on through appropriate feedback within reasonable time. I am not getting good visibility into the system status here based on what's going on with these warning messages, I'm deducing that perhaps it has received this information, has created the account, but I don't know that for sure. So here's an issue right here that I would suggest they should probably fix as soon as they can. If it isn't, what I think it is, providing users with better feedback that you have actually created an account. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the main page here. Oh, look, it has logged me in with that. Okay, so it has created the account. And did it do it here as well? How can I tell on this particular interface whether or not I signed in? Okay. So in the dashboard here, I can see that I have logged in with the account that I created with my username. Again, there was no feedback on the previous screen saying, hey, you did create the account. It looked like there was just some sort of error and I had not known that I created the account. I come back here, I am logged in with that account information, and that's displayed here. Now on the mobile version, I do not see that username being presented. When I click on the profile icon here, there is the option to log out. I'm not going to select. I didn't mean to do that. All right, log me out. So now I'm going to try logging in again. I regret so much using my full name as my email address because it's a lot of characters and I created it before the whole mobile thing happened. And now it's just such a pain to type in all those characters every time on a mobile device. All right, I'm putting my password. All right, so I've logged back in, and I'm not going to go touch this profile icon again because last time it went through this thing, and I didn't mean to log out, but it logged me out, or it made me log in. And I'm also not really sure what the login does now. Like, what is this providing me? Creating an account. Do I get notifications? Do I get emails about things? Like, is that what happens here? What advantage does having an account with PIVX Central provide a user? I don't see any different forms of information here than if I hadn't signed up. Now PIVX Central has information on me. What am I getting in return here? That's my question as a user right now. All right, so let's move forward a bit here. What I'm going to do now is check out some of these navigational things here, starting with the desktop governance. Click on that. Okay, what do we have here? Governance, super blocks, manage proposals. I'll click on that in a second. We got archive, current, and next. All right, so going through here. So now we're dealing with a lot of developer-based stuff. And when I say that, what I mean is highly technical things that well, we're talking about market research too. Maybe this is roadmap stuff. This is things that, needs to happen for the PIVX community to kind of operate going forward. Hey, these things have to be fixed. Because again, with PIVX, you're dealing with a decentralized group of people coming together underneath a somewhat formal entity. It's not like a business that has a product roadmap or things like that. You got to have some way of delegating and managing and kind of putting forth what you're going to be building with a bunch of people coming together voluntarily, and so having some sort of means to show what's going on and what's being voted on and things like that. Like, I think that's obviously necessary, and that's what is going on here, is a way to show that. So maybe this is exactly what, this is more about what this whole site is about, is providing an overview of what's going on in the PIVX community in terms of things that are kind of being voted on and happening and need to happen in order to move the project going forward. So we have, I see market research. I don't see any usability or user research, just, throwing that out there. Piv team, I'd be happy to help you lead those things. I've got plenty of experience conducting usability tests, field tests, user research, interviews, surveys, observations. Be happy to help out with that. Just throwing that out there. But some of these other things, I'm not quite sure what they mean. So, if you're ingrained in this community, I'm sure that this means more information. This has more relevance to you. But if you're an outside person with limited experience with what's going on, this might not make any sense. But what I'm seeing here is some kind of roadmap or kind of project listing of things that need to happen, and whether or not they have come to fruition, and who voted on it, and what was the payment perhaps paid to that project for it to be carried out. So we have view documents here. So let's check out one of these marketing research documents. View document. Interesting. So we have release date information, market research content applications. Wow. This is good information. I like how this is set up. I'm not going to take the time to read through all this right now, otherwise this video would be very, very long. But I like this. You have, an introduction, you have a proposal. Nice. And so this is a way to keep track of all that stuff. Oh, you got comments down here too? All right. So logging in allows you to reply and interact with this stuff. I bet you that's what's going on. Let me go ahead and, oh wait, if I gotta log in here, sign up or log in. Is there no carryover? Do I have to sign up here as well with a different account to be able to interact with this material here? There's no kind of single sign-on mechanism where it just like carries over my information, or are these two separate entities where I have to have an account for both? These are my questions. I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now about the inner workings of all that. All right, I'm not going to go through this process here, as my task was to simply deal with the PIVX Central site in this video, but I am curious about the connection between the two here. All right, what else can we do? We can copy yes, copy no. Votes. Vote commands. Copy no, copy yes. I don't know why the wording is copy yes, copy no. I'm confused about what that means. I'm not sure exactly what will happen when I click on this. I'm going to click on it, and I hope it don't disrupt anything. But I'm going to go yes. And I don't know if that did anything. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that does. All right, so if you click on the creator here, it takes you to the things that are done by them. We'll go back. Manage proposals, governance, manage proposals. Create proposal. Okay, so here you can create your proposal, and I'm assuming that that's what this thing is showing up here. You got a name, you've got introduction. Is this the basic outline that's going on here? Link to proposal information, proposal category. Do we have proposal category here? Findings. Yeah, I'm not sure if this, this kind of bit of information here is following the format that is provided here in this template. Okay, so I think I'm getting it here. Here you can kind of come into this place and you can create proposals on how to improve PIVX. You put your proposal name, the information, link to proposal information, category, payment information, number of payments, payments amounts. Interesting. Okay, I'd like to learn more about this, but this will probably require me to kind of tap into members of the team to ask about what this is exactly kind of allowing people to do. So my suggestion here is for the creators of the site to give more information as to what all this is actually about, what this is allowing you to do, what is the outcome, what is the purpose of it, because I'm just making guesses here based on what I'm seeing. All right, so I'm gonna go back, get back, archived, current, next. Interesting. So current December. August. So this ended in August 2018. And why with next do we now get this additional bits of information here? Why is that available for next but not current? Is there a reason that this information is not for proposals next? Okay, so current is what you're probably currently working on. Next is what's going to be coming up in the next time frame. And here you have information that provides you with, okay, how much money is available to be spent on a particular thing to be done, and when the next super block is going to happen. So it kind of gives you a time frame in which how much money is available to spend on a particular thing to do, and how long you have until the deadline is going to. I'm saying deadline very high level here. I'm not exactly sure how the deadlines would work. If you got to get a proposal in by the next super block, or you have to have a proposal and finished by the next super block. Not sure how the time frame of all that works, but that's my guess as to what's going on here. All right, so that's the governance here. I'm going to now check that out on the mobile device. So I'm going to go to governance, and scrolling through again, we have a responsive situation. Starts on next. Now a second ago when I scrolled down, it didn't load those immediately. It got stuck right there. It just kind of bounced, but there's like a lazy load going on here, and it's now adding all these things in. So each one of these proposed, see there it goes. As you see that, it just bounced, it got stuck. I don't think it's a huge issue, it's just something that I noticed. And so it looks at each one of these things as its own individual kind of div. So when I clicked on, yes, no, up there, I didn't know if it did anything. If I click here, is there any kind of copying? Okay, so now I had some sort of visual feedback that what happened. I clicked and there was an action. So there was a bit of information that gave me feedback that my action actually happened. I clicked and it did something. I did not notice that when I did these up here on the desktop. When I click on this, nothing's happening. I don't get that feedback, which we witnessed there. So if I do it again here, copied, boom, there's like a movement, it says copied for a second, and then it goes back to copy yes. All right, so that is not happening on the desktop version. Now, if I go into a mobile state here, does that happen? No. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure whether there's not parity between the desktop version here and what I experience here on the mobile app there. I'm going to view a document as well. It takes me to a new page. Okay, interesting. Hey, Cryptosi. Cool. Yeah, I would have to kind of like talk with more members that are involved, members that are a little bit more involved in all of this to better understand exactly the full details of how, what all this is allowing people to do. I got an idea of what's going on here, but not being as involved with like the community, there are things about this that I'm just not, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not quite sure exactly the mechanics of all of it. But just speaking to some of the little usability things like that I see here, there is, something missing here in terms of that feedback with clicking on these particular buttons here that does exist on the mobile version. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to links here. So links opens and closes that. I'm not sure why you would want to hide that. Maybe just always keep this open. I'm not sure what having this closed, how it would benefit anything. When you're here on the mobile version, these are open by default as well. However, if you can see this, it's you see what's going on here. I'm scrolling up to try to see the rest of the social, but what I'm getting is my finger, even though it's over the slide out menu here, navigation, it's controlling the back pane right there, not moving this up. So I get down to this point here, and now it's doing it. Huh, weird. All right, let's try this again. So it opens up. I want to scroll to see the bottom. All right, it works. There. I come back and do it again. It's now switched. I haven't touched over there, but it's switched to that now. One more time. Weird. Oh yeah, so there's some sort of issue here with, the opening and closing of this panel and the ability to scroll up and down. And it's working fine now, but a minute ago, despite the fact that I had not touched that back panel, it was controlling that. So I'm not sure what was causing that. See, now it's doing it again. Interesting. I'm not sure what the order of operations is that's causing that, but there is some sort of bug going on here that's making it so that I'm controlling the wrong panel despite having this opened. So let's click on some of these resources, piv.org. This opens it up in a new tab. I am a huge fan of having links always open in a new tab. I don't like within window openings. I know that there has been, writings about that and like the UX community about, things should just open up in the same window and people can use the back button. I just don't think that that's... I think that people like opening up tabs more than maybe the UX community that talk about that thinks. In my experience, in 8 years of my career have been spent studying how educators and students interact with technology. One thing that I've noted from educators, and this is a completely different user base, but just from the way they interacted with things, is they would go through websites looking for content that they wanted to use in class. Okay, I got to teach this particular topic. I got to go find some videos and some quiz questions and some writing samples, yada yada yada, that pertain to this particular topic. And let me go in and search. I find lists of links that are possible hits. I want to open them up in multiple tabs so I can go through them and review them and then decide whether or not I want to use them. So having it only open up within a window, kind of how Google works right now, I think is terrible, because it means that you have to always right-click to open, a link, like this, say open a new tab, versus just having it open up in a new tab and making it easier for educators to open these bits of content that they need to explore later. But that's beside the point here. I do like the fact that these things are opening up in separate tabs, so people can keep this opened here and kind of go through and just open up what they want to view and not have to worry about constantly having to kind of go back and do it again, or having to right click and open up in a new tab. Social media is the same way. Fantastic. Okay. Instagram. I believe I'm already following you guys. Yep, I am. Okay, and Discord. All right, so on the mobile version, let's click, opens up in a new tab. Awesome. opens up the actual application. That's nice. It's doing that thing again. I want to get down further on this. You see this? I want to go down further. There we go. Ah. I know there's an Instagram down there, but I can't get to it. Almost had it. All right. Well, obviously there's an issue here with this being able to scroll appropriately so that you can actually get down to some of these links at the bottom here. All right. Go back to dashboard. So I think, that covers it for the most part in terms of what was available on the dashboard. We've gone through that information here. We've gone through the create an account process. We saw some issues with that where it wasn't giving you as a user feedback that the account had been created. However, going back to this main dashboard, I could see that I am logged in up here. That does not exist on the mobile version. And so if you were creating this account on a mobile version, you would run into that problem. And if you went back to the dashboard, after creating an account and being like, did it create the account? I can't tell. You go back to the dashboard and you still wouldn't be able to tell because you can't see any information up here regarding your login credentials. I mean, your username, right? Whereas you can see that up here on the desktop kind of version of it. Also, we talked about kind of the governance here. This, of course, is pertaining to people that are very much involved in the community. I'm not sure exactly about all the detailed mechanics that go into it. However, one kind of usability issue that I see here is that there isn't any kind of feedback here about whether or not something happened when you clicked on this, right? There is no feedback to you as a user that says, okay, this has been clicked, where it does happen here on the mobile version. Let's see, and then we talked about the links here and this kind of menu. It's great having everything kind of open up in these side additional tabs. However, on the mobile version, there are problems being able to scroll all the way down to the bottom here, and every so often you get stuck controlling the back panel, the back page, instead of the actual navigation menu here. So that's another kind of usability issue. Whether these things are specific to Safari browsers, I don't know. I'm not using multiple browsers to test things in. Maybe it's only an issue with Safari and not an issue in Chrome or Firefox. However, there is an issue here trying to operate it on Safari on a mobile device here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the other thing was that maybe on the kind of desktop version here, non-mobile version here, you would want to make it easier for users to scroll through this, not have such thick kind of boxy text taking up a lot of space here, causing the user to have to scroll through a lot in order to find their target. That was not an issue on the mobile version because it starts using that kind of native scroll wheel to be able to find the options. And I think that sums it up. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the cameras.